Listen, we got to have a real talk about accountability in relationships. It ain't always pretty, but it is essential. See, we as people, we know about taking responsibility. We know about carrying the weight, about stepping up when things get tough. But sometimes in our relationships, we let things slide. We avoid the hard conversations. We brush things under the rug. We act like we perfect, or we never make mistakes. But that ain't real. That ain't how you build something strong. Accountability ain't about pointing fingers or laying blame. It's about owning your part, good and bad. It's about showing up even when it's uncomfortable. It's about knowing the real meaning of love, being honest even when it hurts. Because without accountability, you ain't got trust. Without trust, you ain't got nothing.
Ever been left speechless by the ridiculousness of modern dating? Or maybe you're more old school. Yeah. Like, seriously, what were we thinking with those pickup lines in the 90s? This is I'll Explain All This Later, the podcast where we dissect the crazy world of relationships. From dating app disasters to in-law interventions, we'll cover it all. Now, some of our takes might be a little hot, but hey, that's what you get when you press play and tune in. We'll explain the logic behind it all. Eventually. Anyway, let's dive in.
How you doing, Bree?
I'm good. How are you?
So look, right? Tonight's episode, season 3, episode 3. All right, so look, right? One of the biggest things about us ladies, and I'm gonna tell y'all about me personally, because this is what this is about, me. We don't always like to admit when we're wrong. Okay? Now, I had this thing with accountability. It was cool for me to hold myself accountable for my actions, but you couldn't do it. I ain't want you to do it. I'm going to do it. If anybody going to, be the biggest critic and to be the biggest man in accountability, I'm going to do it. I ain't want you to do it. I ain't need you to tell me I was wrong. Because if I was wrong, I would tell myself I was wrong. All right? So I was big on, I would tell you that it was your fault, but in my mind, I would have a talk with myself. I would talk to myself and tell myself, yeah, you fucked up, And I think I lost a lot of good relationships that way because it was always your fault. I don't care. I don't care if you call me cheating. I don't care if I lied. I don't care, if Don't look at me like that, okay? Because it was hard being in relationships. Bree, what's accountability to you, sis? Talk to me. What is accountability to you?
Admitting when you're wrong, being humble enough to apologize when you are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's accountability. Being an adult.
That's it?
Yes, it's very simple. It's not too complicated.
So why don't a lot of us do it?
Because a lot of us don't like to admit that we're wrong. A lot of us don't like to apologize when we're wrong. Because for some people, I think just admitting that you did something wrong or you did someone else wrong. It's a humbling experience to apologize. Like, you know what? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I was wrong. And a lot of us are just stubborn.
Yeah, so look, right? One of the biggest things that come to me when I think of a scenario about accountability for me was I was dealing with this female. And she was a good woman. She was a really good woman, and she ended up going out of town. And so I was in the crib by myself the whole weekend, whatever the case was. And so I'm kicking it. I invited a little female over. And this female was supposed to leave. She was supposed to leave. It was supposed to be just one of those, we here and then go on and get you up out of here type of things. But I ended up falling asleep in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I ended up falling asleep in with her. Like, it went It went longer than what it was expected. So the girl I was dealing with came home earlier than expected.
Mm-hmm.
We were still in the crib. The new girl was still in the crib. And so I kind of put it on her. Like, it was your fault that we are here. You know, I wouldn't be in this position to cheat if, you know, you had been as good to me as you should have been. Now, mind you, I already said that she was a good woman, but the way that I moved, my tactic was, I'm gonna make you not be a good woman in my head, even though you are a good woman. And so the tripped out thing about it was, I thought, like, you know, you run that guilt trip play on them and they will be like, oh yeah, well, you know what, you're right, it is my fault. It didn't work out like that. Shorty left. She left. And so the one thing that she said was, you are going to run a lot of good women out playing the games that you play. And I thought about that. And she has been right. Like, even now, still to this day, like, she's married now with kids, got a nice house, living her life. And I just be like, yeah, you know what?
Still watching her.
And I mean, you know, I ain't try to DM her. And I thought about it a few times, like, you know, because you never know. Sometimes on social media, houses can look like they happy, but they might not be happy. So if you reach out and try to see if they happy, then
that's you causing problems.
So that relationship, the first one that I really felt like I screwed up, I should have took more accountability. The second one was my marriage. Okay. Now, with my marriage, and I told myself that I wasn't really going to get too much into that, but because I had to, I'm going to get into it. There were a lot of things that went wrong in that marriage that now that it's over with, I find myself in a daydream sometimes, sliding down the wall, thinking about, like, damn, how fucked up I was. I feel like one of them old R&B singers, you know, that slide down the wall and grab for the air and, you know, like, you know how they used to stare out the window and be starstruck because they lost their girl and shit like that. I felt like that. So accountability for me was, I didn't become accountable with that until it was over with. You know, I started becoming more accountable when I knew that it was over. You know how, like, when you know something is over and then you try to straighten up real fast to like delay it from being over, but you know it's over. Like, you know how, like, you know, the school called your mama and already told them you was acting up. So you at home trying to clean up and straighten out and ask if she need anything, help around the house, because you already knew that phone call was coming. You just don't know when. And that was me. Like, I felt like I had a lot more time. And I used to tell her this. If I screwed up, I felt like I had time to fix it, you know, because we said, till death do us part. So I felt like I had a lot of time to fix it. Like, whatever I did wrong, I still got time to fix it. You know, you'll be mad right now, but in sickness and in health, for better, for worse, all that other stuff. So it took a lot for me to open up and realize my mistakes. And as a man, we don't never want to, you know, admitting that we're wrong is like one of the toughest things in the world. And all these dudes ain't going to admit it. But so let me ask you this, right? Did you ever have a problem with accountability? Like, for yourself, for your actions? Because I know you be trying to act like you the goody two shoes, you know, so.
Who, me?
Yeah.
No, I don't think I'm goody two shoes.
I know, right? Because I be giving you so much advice. Like,
no. No, you do a lot, and I'm like, ooh, some cautionary tales. No, but no, I don't think I have a problem with account. I can say that now, but I have to think back. But I don't think I've ever had a problem with it. I haven't been in a situation where I just can't admit that I was wrong.
No, that was me. I was going to tell you was wrong, even though, listen, this woman caught me dead to rights inside some coochie. And I still, I still, you know what I'm saying, made it out to be her fault.
There's
Like,
another word for that.
what?
Manipulation.
I've heard, you know what? I heard that a lot in my marriage, my ex marriage. I heard that a lot. Manipulation, narcissistic, a whole bunch of shit that at the time I felt like, man, none of this shit fits me. None of this fits me. I don't even know where you got that from. That don't fit me. But I think it was harder for me to admit to her that I was wrong. And, you know, I found myself at times admitting to things that she knew about just because I wanted to keep the marriage, or I wanted to keep the life, or I wanted to keep her around, or I wanted to, you know, have these things. And so, you know how you be like, all right, cool, I'm gonna just tell you, but you ain't. I'm only gonna tell you the shit that you know about. I'm not gonna go deeper into the bag and tell you the other shit that you don't know about, because as long as you don't know about it, it never happened. That was my thought process. So let me ask you, right? How does one cope with holding themselves accountable? Because earlier, remember I said that nobody held me more accountable than myself. You know, so how do you, in your opinion, like, what do you feel like is the reason that a person shields off being accountable? Like, what do you think they gain from that, and what do you think they lose from that?
Oh, like, I don't know what a person would gain for not being accountable. It could just be avoiding harder conversations and avoiding having to, you know, admit that your actions is hurting another person. Sure, I think that's just something that unless throughout life they've never had to be accountable. That could just be one of those things where they've never had to, you know, been told they were wrong or been corrected. And now here you are in adulthood. It's just like, this isn't, you know, people don't just become like that overnight.
That was me. I felt like there was times that I should have stepped up and changed the outcome of something, even though when I seen it going the way that it was going. But I had this mentality of, I'm going to deny until I absolutely have to admit it. Period.
Well, for you, in your experience, do you think because you had prior to your marriage and you have moved the way you move, have you been corrected? Has anyone said, no, that's wrong, or they just take you back and just keep pushing?
No, like, again, I told you, Shorty left. She didn't want to do it. And then, you know, my ex, she dealt with it for 4 years, and, you know, she tried to get me to see the light on a lot of things. I spent 3 years and maybe 9 months denying. And then the last 3 months, you know, you sit in, you try to fight it, you try to grasp it, you try to, all right, look, I get your point. I see what you were trying to do. But by that time, you're still behind the 8 ball. You're behind now because you had 3 years to fix this. And now when you finally feel like she done, she walking out, she checked out, now you want to straighten up. Now you want to, you know what I'm saying? Even more so, I look back at all the relationships that I had in my life, and it's just like, yo, I should have did a lot better. Because now, again, you looking at these women, and they all in these relationships, they happy. They doing the things that you should have been doing, the trips and living the life and the acts of affection and all that shit. You know what I'm saying? You're seeing these things, and it puts you in a box. It's like, damn, I fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Because I had a situation now, and like I said, I find myself thinking back on my exes, and it's like, yo, wonder what they doing right now. Is they happy? Can I message them just to fuck with them and see if they happy? Or listen.
That's real.
I'm diabolical like that, like, and I'm learning to get past that. But that was my moments, right? Like, again, if I saw you getting ready to move on, like you were done with me, I would reach out to you, just, you know what I'm saying? Like, you could write a post, I'm going on a date tonight, I'm so excited. And then I would see that shit. And then it was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna text her and see what's good. So now I'm whispering sweet nothings in your ear, but I really just don't want you to go on this date. So I'm gonna whisper sweet nothings in your ear, get you off of this date. And then, you know, once I got tired of the shit, then it was like, all right, cool. We back doing the same cycle again. But I think for me, let me tell y'all something that really, really made me dwell on it, on being accountable, because I wasn't. And it was because I felt like I was, and it's gonna be real hard to admit, I felt like I was the prize at times. I felt like you should be honored to be with me. You should be honored that I picked you. You should be honored that, I chose you to be in this relationship with. And that was my thought process. I had this mind frame of that, and I felt like I could do whatever because, you are who you are. I can replace you. This is just my thoughts. And one of the toughest things was having those conversations of being accountable. Okay, just saying, you know what? I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I messed up. Yeah, that's cool. But after you do that so many times, that person is going to fall on deaf ears. They're not going to pay attention to that shit no more because they've heard it before. It got to the point where I was telling her this, right? So then once that wasn't working, I started crying. Like, I went in my bed. So let me ask you, sis, you ever dealt with somebody that wasn't accountable for nothing that they did? How did that work? What are some things that y'all worked on, like to improve that? Or
honestly, I just stopped talking to him.
After how long?
It was a back and forth. It took a while for me because at some point it's like, you get tired of that.
Okay.
Get tired of, and then eventually I think they started doing things. Tell me what I wanted to hear. Let me just tell her this, so she can just be good. It's like, no, you know what? I'm cool.
That was me. I told you. I was the dude that knew I screwed up. So love bombing was a thing for me. I knew I screwed up. I knew I was screwing up. So let me go buy you a TV. Let me go buy you a ring or some jewelry. Let me take you out on a date, knowing that, we ain't been on a date in months. But because I know that I messed up, internally, I'm like, all right, let me smooth this down, take you out on a date. Let me do this, let me do that. With accountability, right? You have to mean that shit. You can't say, I'm sorry, I messed up, it won't happen again. Then 2 weeks later, you're doing the same shit that you just got done apologizing for. So now it doesn't seem sincere. It doesn't seem like
it's not sincere.
Yeah, I mean, at the time for me, it was sincere. I apologize for it. But I might have had the invisible fingers crossed kind of thing. Like in my mind, my fingers was crossed.
So you just saying sorry. What is when you say sorry, you gotta mean it.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to mean it. And a lot of times, listen, we play that tough, that pride and ego, which I'll be having an episode about. We play that tough role. Like, we don't care if you leave. And this men and women. We don't care if you leave. We don't care if you stay. We nonchalant. We just don't care. And the whole time, we do care. So I think for me, watching I'm gonna tell you what made me step up and start doing things the right way, because I saw the pain that I was causing. I saw the pain. You hear people crying in their office, and you hear people crying before they come in the house, and you see people crying, and they've been crying, and you watch the signs, and you watch how this stuff make people feel, and then that's when it becomes a problem. Like, you say you love this person. You say you want to be with this person. You say they mean everything to you, but you sitting here and you doing all this foul shit to them. And that's not really love. And for me, that was me. I watched a lot of women cry, over me. And for me, it was just like, all right, cool. You crying. I'll let you get it out. And what's for dinner? You know what I'm saying? Type shit. you know, because I really didn't care because listen, I had been hurt so much in my life that watching other people hurt, I just, you know, in my mind, I'm telling them, toughen up, man. This shit happens. But then it's like I had an epiphany and I was just like, yo, this shit hurt. Like watching you hurt, watching the pain in your eyes, watching you cry, watching you tell me 1,000 times you're done, and me sitting here trying to figure out how to not be done. And then, you know, once I got too comfortable, it took a while. So again, when you're saying sorry, stand by that shit, man. When you are telling this person, male or female, that you're going to change, that you're going to fix it, that you know your wrongs. If you continue to do something over and over and over and over, you're not really sorry. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what you say, you're not really sorry. If you have to keep saying it over and over again just to get someone to stay with you, you're not sorry. Being sorry, being accountable and holding yourself accountable, because at the end of the day, especially if you have children in the home, you're teaching them how to be accountable. They're watching you argue, fight, lie, push off, avoid, ignore. If they're watching this, they're going to grow up thinking they could do the same thing. So talk to me. What you said you avoided and you got away from them. But where's the love in that though? You didn't try to bring your issues to the table and they could figure out.
No, I've done that before. It never went anywhere. After a while, it becomes a point where it's literally when you do the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. That's the definition of what? Insanity.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, it kind of got to the point where it's like either you waiting for me to end it, I'm waiting for you to end it. How about that's what it comes down to. Because sometimes people stay in relationships and it's like they wait for one or the other to leave. It's like, are you going to go? I'm going to go? Because at some point, somebody has to walk away. Somebody's waiting for the other person to end the relationship. And then you just stay stuck in the same cycle of.
All right, so I became accountable. I told you what I did wrong, why I did it, you know, the outcome, the consequences, whatever from that. So what happens after that in your eyes?
For me?
Yeah.
And this is the first time you've been accountable, or is this
I think this is the first time.
And we just dealt with our stuff? Well, it would depend. Because at some point, like the person may just, if you're saying it because you mean it, the person may come to the conclusion that this ain't gonna work. And you have to be okay with that because that is the outcome of our action. You know, if someone says to you, it just ain't gonna work, how would you take it? Would you be upset? Like, I just did all this and I admitted I was wrong, and you gonna walk out? Even
after I admitted it, you still said that it ain't gonna work?
How would you feel? Because if it's real and you meant it, and it's like, I'm telling you, you're not, because if you're saying it because you just want to show, it's still not being honest. If you're like, I'm telling you, I'm being accountable, but you're going to stay, right? You're going to stay and work it out with me.
I've
but
done
what
that.
They decide, they say, thank you, but this isn't working.
See, look, right? Okay, so there was a light accountability and a heavy accountability. Okay, the light accountability is, look, I know I'm wrong. I'm sorry. You know, because it could be something light. Y'all got into an argument because you ain't let the toilet seat down and she fell in or some shit like that. Something light.
We're talking about heavy.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Heavy
the heavy side of it was, man, like, can we talk about it? Can we sit down and discuss this? Can we figure out how to make it work instead of throwing in the towel? But then you have some people who are very strong about whatever it is that y'all went through, and they just can't overlook it.
Right.
I suggest giving them time. That's a good question. That's the question that you should definitely ask. Why you want to work it out? We got years in this. We got kids. Okay. You know, we got the time. We got the effort. We put in a lot of money. A lot of love has been here. You remember all the good times we had. This is why I want to work it out. This is why I want to fix it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. What's going to change?
What's going to change is going to be we're going to both put in effort. We're going to both put in effort. You're going to hear my expectations. You're going to hear my boundaries. I'm going to hear your expectations. I'm going to hear your boundaries. And then we can sit down and compromise and come up with something. Even if we're just, all right, cool, I just need a little space. We'll take a little time. We'll come back and let me think this over. Whatever you do, don't force it. Don't force the issue. If that person, male or female, says, I just need a little time before I make a decision, give them the time. If they say, listen, I appreciate, like Bree said, I appreciate you coming clean. I appreciate you taking ownership. I don't think we should be together. Sometimes you got to learn to accept that. I was the dude that if you told me that, I'm showing up. I'm trying to, sending flowers to your job, showing up at the gym where you're at, trying to get a workout in with you, trying to remind you of the things that we used to do, how good we could have been, how it was. Don't do that. Okay? Because I remember
don't show up everywhere.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Because I remember I was out and this woman, my ex, and she was done, and she kept saying she was done, but I kept trying to guilt her into, okay, we married, right? So we beyond that. We're beyond that. It's easy to walk away with married. So I'm sending gifts and like I said, truly love bombing and shit. It's okay if you still want to fight for what y'all got. You have to be the change that you're trying to get. You can't come back and, man, I know I cheated. I know I lied, but you did this and you did. See, you ain't being truly accountable. You know what I'm saying? Truly accountable is taking everything that you did and explain. Even if that person made you do it or whatever the case, this is a you moment. This is about what you're going to do better, what you're going to change, what you're going to fix. This isn't about pointing fingers and taking blame. Again, you set them expectations and you set them boundaries. So if y'all do decide to give it another go, y'all already know what's expected. Y'all already know, what y'all have to do and how y'all have to do it. Like I told you, it took me a while, Bree. It took me a while to reflect. It took me a while to get an understanding because at first I had all these things going on with me that I couldn't quite understand. That was a time where, like I said, everything was your fault. It wasn't mine. I'm perfect. I ain't do nothing wrong. And you're going to run into a lot of people like that who feel like they ain't done nothing wrong. They ain't going to do nothing wrong. They ain't say nothing wrong. And it's like, you ever swallowed your pride or bit the bullet or fell on the sword for something just to maintain the peace? Like,
you have to in relationships.
Yeah, it was a lot of times I had to pick my fights. Like, I don't know, is this fight really that important to win? Look, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I messed up. It was my fault. You know what I'm saying? Because I wanted to maintain peace. I didn't want to sleep on the couch. I didn't want to not be able to get sex. I didn't want to not be able to get home cooked meals and I didn't want to be able, to have us distant. So yes, I'm sorry. This is light accountability. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Can we move past this? You know what I'm saying? That's light stuff, little arguments here and there, cool. But the big shit, the cheating, the lying, you forgot an anniversary, you forgot a birthday, y'all yelling at each other, y'all calling each other out y'all names. And it's just like certain shit to you. When it comes to accountability, right? What if working it out is an option? How do you go about that? They became accountable. All right. They told you what it was. You yourself don't want it to end. So how do y'all go about fixing it? Like ending is not an option. So how do you go about fixing it? What are some things you can suggest that you know of that will help y'all fix it without ending it being on the table?
I guess it would depend on what the issue is. You got to communicate. You got to be honest and making time for And if there is an issue, address it right then and there. Because I can admit that I'm like this sometimes.
We ain't sweeping it under the rug. Yeah.
No, I think because it's, for me at least, it's gonna come back up again probably.
Yeah.
And if
in the past,
don't bring it up in an argument. Don't bring it up when you get mad, because all it's gonna do is like if you both truly, if you forgave them, they forgave you.
Facts.
Move on. If you don't move on and you throw it back in their face, that means you ain't never really moved on. And then it's a whole bunch of mess.
See, and that's the thing too. With accountability, there is no, all right, I'm accountable today, and that's gonna cover everything else. Like there's no, it doesn't one size fits all with accountability. Like if you're going to be accountable, if you know deep down inside that you screwed up. I was one of them dudes who was a liar. Absolutely.
No.
I told all the lies under the sun. I was a cheater. It was crazy because, I started thinking about how these arguments and fights was affecting the kids. Now the kids got to be in 2 different houses. They got to see their moms Monday through Friday. They got to see me on the weekends, and they used to seeing us in the same house. And I just thought about it for the longest time, like, yo, this ain't the way to be. So I looked at that, and, sometimes it's too late to be accountable too. Like, it's too late. They're done. They done checked out, mentally, emotionally, sexually. You can tell. And sometimes to fix something, though, all it takes is to say, I'm sorry, and actually stand on it. Mm-hmm. It's too many people that take that sorry word for granted and don't think just because a person love you that they're going to accept everything that come with you, because a lot of people ain't. You have a lot of people out here that will love you to the end of the day. Coming in truthful, letting them know what it is, grants you a little leeway, but it doesn't grant you forever leeway. My favorite thing was, you already know what it is. I told you what it was with me from the jump. Because listen, once they left, that was my go-to card. Listen, look, I ain't ready for no relationship. We can mess around. We can hang out. We can kick it. I probably will be seeing other women from time to time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Letting them know from the jump, you know what I'm saying? That way, when the drama do kick up, you already held yourself to that standard and let them know what it was up front. See, a lot of times people use vulnerable situations to manipulate and get over on people. That was me. Like, I know, that was my go-to line. Like, already knew what it was. I told you from jump what it was. That doesn't give you a reason to be an asshole. That doesn't give you a reason to do the things that you're doing. Like, just be real. This is between men and women. Just be real.
Also, what you said, I think as women, we hear what a man exactly what he wants. He's saying, like, what you said is what I want. We act like we didn't hear that. And then we end up in bad situations. But then if you said, we talked about this, that we just gonna kick it, wasn't gonna be anything serious, and yada, yada, yada. We have to listen to as women. If a man tells you, I don't want a serious relationship, I just want to, you see other people, I see other people, we get together, boom. You can't change that into a committed relationship, because he literally is telling you, I don't want a committed relationship.
Yeah.
So we have to listen to that and not trying to change that, because his ass said it, he said it, and he mean it.
Yeah.
And
stop being defensive with it too.
How do we bring accountability into our relationships? First off, we got to learn how to listen. Not just hear the words, but really listen to what our partner is saying. We got to put down our defenses and be willing to hear the truth, even if it stings a little. Then we got to be willing to own our mistakes. Nobody's perfect. We all mess up. But it's how we handle those mess ups that matter. When you make a mistake, apologize and actually mean it. Don't make excuses. Don't try to shift the blame. Just own it. and it shows that you're willing to do better. We need to create a safe place where we can be honest with each other, where we can talk about our feelings without fear of judgment. That means being vulnerable, showing our soft side, and it means be willing to hold each other accountable, to call each other out when we're wrong, but to do it with love and respect. And it's all coming from a place of love, not judgment.
Yeah, we have to listen to, because I was like, listen to what he's saying. Mm-hmm. Like, it's coming out of his mouth. He does not want to commit a relationship. Yep. You want to commit a relationship, but you want to be with him. Mm-hmm. It just ain't gonna work.
I think a lot of times too, it ain't that we don't care about, holding ourselves to a high standard. But again, it was like, yo, I'm doing that. I don't need you. This is not a teacher and student moment. Mm-hmm. Like, talk to me. I will be more open into being accountable if you talk to me like you got some sense. A lot of times dudes don't want to be accountable because they scared of the consequences. She gonna leave. She gonna move out. She gonna take the kids. We ain't gonna be together no more. She gonna go fuck somebody else. These are a lot of reasons why dudes don't come clean about what they feeling or what they going through or what they done did, because in their mind they thinking, how many times I done came home from cheating or messing around or whatever the case is, and on that ride home you think about, damn, she a good girl, man. Just, you know what I'm saying? You have one of them post-nut clarity moments where, like, after you're done, and men have these more than women, but after we're finished with whatever we're out here doing, mm-hmm. and now our senses are cleared up, and it's like, damn, why did I even do this? Why did I do that? Like, you don't even feel good about it. You feel good about it while it's going on, but then when it's done and over with, it's like,
like everything,
this shit wasn't even worth it.
Yeah. And if you do it, you got to be adult enough to be like, okay, this is probably, if I tell her what happened, she's probably gonna leave.
Because the do the crime, do the time thing comes into play with this. Like, if you are grown enough to get out there and make the decisions that you're making, and you're not thinking about the consequences or the risks that come with it, yeah, then you deserve everything that comes out of it. Because eventually, my whole thing is, I want you to know from me instead of from somebody else. Like, I don't want you to know from somebody else. I don't want you to know, I had a situation, right? And it's real talk. I had a situation. And I remember I got married, right? So this girl that I had stopped dealing with found out that I got married. Mm-hmm. And she got in my inbox. She like, so you really gonna get married? I'm like, yeah. She like, so you ain't gonna deal with me no more? I said, no. She said, all right, cool. So if you're not gonna deal with me no more, maybe I should just inbox her and tell her everything that's been going on. And so me thinking like, all right, we married. Yeah, so you can't really trip because we got married. The girl inboxed her everything.
That's just
old pictures, text messages, videos.
That's funky.
Everything, right?
Like, that's just pitiful.
So I had no choice, but my whole thing was like, yo, this happened before we got married. Mm-hmm. It might have happened while we was together, before we got married. You know what I'm saying? This is what happened. This is how it went down. This is what I should have said. I should have been truthful about it. But me at that moment, man, that girl lying, man. Ain't none of that true. That's
into the lies.
I went straight into the lies because I felt like, again, we just got married. I ain't trying to do all this, so I'm gonna let it rock real quick. And so then whole time I just, in hindsight, if I had and that was our first real fight, being married too, because off the bat, you know what I'm saying? And so instantly I got the blocking motherfuckers, like instantly, because you got one story, who's to say?
As a woman, that's the last thing we want is somebody doing that.
Man, listen.
Because that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
That's unnecessary.
Hell yeah. Yep.
Because, maybe, and we know why another woman comes to us like that, because you got married. And it's coming from a place of spite. But that's you come Don't let no woman do. Don't let no woman do that.
And I know I screwed up, man, because I should have been honest. You know what I'm saying? I should have just told the truth. Listen. So look, right, we was in a relationship. We wasn't married yet. So I was still kind of soying my royal oats a little bit.
Did you think like when y'all got married, he was like, all right, I did all I did.
Right. The slate.
Since I agree with you, it's like we married and we.
The slate is wiped clean, like what we doing.
I don't want to do that.
I think the thing that bothered her the most was the fact that another woman got that much access. Yeah,
it was bold.
I finally had one of them wake up calls, and I was just like, "Listen, from now on, I'm just gonna start telling people what it is. I'm not gonna."
Yeah, and also, don't have if you have you're single. Right?
No, you're not. No. So me. I must just say it's complicated.
You're in a complicated situation. We'll just say that. No, I don't want to put nothing on.
No. For me, I'm getting to know someone, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay, that's good.
You know, I like her, I dig her. You know, sometimes her attitude is a little bit too much, but mine is too. Okay. But what was you gonna say?
I was gonna say, you do what you do. You do what you do. Yo, folks, the women you see should never know about each other.
Exactly.
Like, why do they know about it?
Exactly. And I think for me, the beauty of it is, to be honest, to have that open dialogue and be able to discuss whatever comes y'all way, you know, together. Stop trying to pull one up on the other person, or stop trying to make the other person feel like you hiding where they got to do investigating. Because I hate that shit. Anytime you come around me now, you investigating and you looking through my shit and you asking about phone messages and shit like that. I want to be comfortable enough to where now here, just take my phone. Just do your thing. Just go through it. You know what I'm saying? But
I didn't do that. It's a mess. Don't ever do that. I recommend nobody doing it.
Listen, I used to do it just to shut them up. You know what I'm saying? Because
you gonna find something that you don't like, and why?
And with me, you always gonna find something that you don't like.
And it's like I'm not even. It doesn't have to be like someone stepping out on you. It's just you may find something that
you left an emoji under that girl picture.
Yes, and it's just like
26 weeks ago.
Or you call it, says she looked beautiful. You know, you gonna find something you don't like. It's gonna piss you off, and it's like if it's so bad that something's going, the truth is gonna come out. If it's, like the truth is gonna come out.
Oh yeah,
you don't. I've learned my lesson invading somebody's privacy.
How'd that go?
Oh, that was a mess. I didn't like what I saw.
What did you see, for example? What was something that you saw that?
Well, I was in a relationship. Mm-hmm. He cheated, but he was trying to fix it. And he flew me out to Dallas and he was like, we're gonna fix this. And I was like, cool. He left his laptop. I scrolled through all that shit. He was talking to another girl, then he was talking to his ex. It wasn't necessarily freaky. It was more so like, it wasn't even inappropriate conversation. It was getting to know you conversation.
So he flew you out just for you
to go through his shit, yeah. And instead of, he was talking to, it wasn't like nasty. It wasn't no nasty stuff. It was just, but it was inappropriate. And it kind of, I lined up the times that he wasn't talking to me. He was talking to.
Why do y'all do that?
Because
I swear. Listen. Why do y'all do that?
If we have to do that.
If we were accountable enough to tell you, hey, this happened.
No,
I'm sorry. It won't happen again.
Because
why can't y'all just let it go?
We are gluttons for pain. Like I want to know that I was right. The time you didn't talk to me, just talk to another motherfucker, and you was. And that's what happened. And then so instead of me just sitting on that, I confronted him right when he came back because he had a meeting. Came back and he was like, "Look at my stuff," and I was like, "Yeah, I went through your stuff." And he's like, "I leave my stuff with you." And he's like, "And you go through it?" He said, "You could have just asked me."
Facts.
I thought about it, and I was like,
"Take accountability, Bree. Why you didn't ask?"
Because I didn't believe he would be honest with me, so I went snooping. But then in that very moment, I realized I think it is an invasion of somebody's privacy. I'm not gonna go through your stuff.
Why?
I'm not, because it don't, like I said, we had already been on we had already hit a rocky patch. So I wasn't already feeling good about where we were. And I just made it worse. Looking through his stuff, I didn't feel better after doing it. It didn't make me feel good. We were already in a bad place. I didn't feel good after doing it. It just further confirmed what I already knew, but it made me feel like shit. And then I felt like shit because I was like, you did leave your stuff with me. Because I wouldn't want anyone going through my stuff. So yeah.
I think it was one of those things that it just impulse. Like the fact that you don't.
Yes.
You don't.
There's no more trust. At the time, it wasn't any more trust, and I probably shouldn't have. I honestly probably shouldn't have went to see him. I think I should have really taken some time because that's where my mind was.
It took some time
to not just speak or see each other. Just I needed, because it wasn't that long after I found out that he had been on Facebook. I think I should have taken some time, and I didn't take any time. And I just immediately, because I wanted to see him and all that, and I was like, I'm gonna confront him and and
you just went straight out there. And okay, so after you saw the computer, right, and y'all had a discussion, how did that go?
I think we really didn't we didn't end the trip with us being mad at each other, because we were just like, we are here. We're together. Let's make the best of the trip. Let's enjoy each other's company. But we did talk about it, and I didn't fully. I told him why I did it, but I feel like he understood why I did it, but he still was like, that was wrong, which is fair because it was.
You left and you played it off like y'all were gonna work it out, but in your mind, you was already done.
We tried to make it work. After that, it just. So I tried. I did try. I really did try. I can admit, when I say I'm going to try, I'm going to try. But then I think after a while, it just got to the point where it's just going in a circle.
This week's call to action, right? I want y'all to take a little deep breath. If you ever feel like you're going to go into the moment that you're going to blame the other person for your actions, I want you to take a deep breath, step back, look in the mirror, and figure out what was your role in this. Don't put it off on that person. Don't, deflect, become defensive, anything like that. Just take time, take a deep breath, and focus in your mind your part of the problem. And then when you're done with that, I want you to figure out how you can be a solution to that problem, how you can do it on your own. Don't look for someone else to rescue your solution. No, you come up with the solution on your own, and then choose the steps and the words, I think, or it was my fault, or what happened with me was, instead of putting it off on somebody else. That is the start to accountability, because you are holding yourself to a standard that kind of reflects to that person. Well, at least, they are admitting they're wrong, and then we'll figure out, how you played and how I played and what we did and things like that. But it starts with self. It starts with me first. I did this and I'm sorry. Listen, I was wrong for this and I'm sorry. And I messed this up and I'm sorry. I screwed up. That was on me. So moral of the story tonight, man, is be accountable. You'll get, listen, if your problems super deep, cheating, lying, infidelity, if it's already deep, don't add on to it. Don't lie. Don't mislead. Don't gaslight. Don't do any of that. Take ownership to what you did and deal with the consequences. If you lose that person, that's just what it is. You lost that person, But I feel like lying or not being responsible enough to admit what went on will only dig you in a deeper hole, I had to pull my sister up out of the woodwork, man. Y'all don't understand. Listen, I love this girl. Like, one thing I can say about her is she always keeps it real. She don't never be one to sit here and say, oh, you innocent. You ain't did nothing wrong. Nah, fuck that. She gonna always tell me what it is in the raw. And that's why, this is my people. I love her. So the fact that, her taking off work, coming to chop it up with me, I just love her for that. Coming back from New Orleans and all that stuff. She trying to leave. All my friends are females. I get along with y'all because dudes be doing too much for me.
My dude has a lot of friends.
Yeah. See, I get along with women more than I do dudes. Dudes are cool, but it's just like, they just come with too much. You
have homeboys.
They do too much. They be in the streets lying and messing around and on their women and all that stuff. Me, I'm trying to lead a better path. I'm trying to, hang around some positive people and go to Bible study and do all that stuff.
All right now. Get away from that lightning strike. You better stop that.
Hey, listen, look. Next week's episode is probably going to be one of my favorites. We are going to be talking about, you know what? Y'all will just wait till next week. I'll explain all that later. I'll see y'all next week, man. Y'all already know what it is. I'm out.
Accountability, it ain't a one-time thing. It's a journey, a constant process. It's about building a foundation of trust and respect brick by brick. We got to commit to showing up every single day, to being honest and to being responsible. We got to teach our children, our younger generation, that's real strength. Ain't about being tough all the time. It's about being accountable. It's about being able to be vulnerable. It's about being real. We got a legacy of strong families and communities. Let's build on that legacy by showing the world what real love looks like. It's about being there for one another through thick and thin. It's about holding each other up and building something that lasts. And that's what accountability is all about.
Thanks for listening to I'll Explain All This Later. Please like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And join us again next time for more outlandish takes on relationships and the dating life.